Hello and welcome to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. Today we have a very special guest, a very historical figure, somebody who's been in the solar industry for a very long time. I remember meeting John Perlin at a solar show. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been some kind of SPI or Intersolar, or probably actually both of them. And John had a book out, and I think it might have been when your solar history book was on the newer side, maybe when it first came out. So welcome to the show, John.
No, it was probably Intersolar in San Francisco.
Intersolar in San Francisco. Yeah, that's what I thought, probably. Yeah,
because I had a book signing there and a booth there that was sponsored by the Intersolar people.
Great, yeah. That was back when Intersolar in North America was run by Germans.
Correct.
In fact, one of my favorite Germans I saw is on your LinkedIn profile, like in your picture, looks like you're getting up on stage with Ike Weber.
Oh, yeah, well, Ike's a big fan of my work.
Yeah, he's a super nice guy. And Ike was the director of the Fraunhofer Institute, which is sort of like NREL for Europe. He was a director for a long time, and he was also on faculty at UC Berkeley. And it was his idea to bring Intersolar to the United States, which is still here, but now it's not run by the Germans. The Germans still have their own Intersolar. It's called the Smarter E. It's in Europe. It's in Munich. And they have other ones too, or in different places around the world, just not the American one. And they still even call it Intersolar over there in Munich too, which was a lot of fun. And I was just there not too long ago, a few months ago, and I was hanging out with Ike. And Ike's also been on this podcast. We were talking about Herman Scher, who started the feed-in tariff about maybe a year and a half ago, is when I had Ike on the podcast on Herman Scher's 80th birthday. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. And then another guy that we recently had on that I met with Ike over there in Germany is Hans Josef Fell, who actually really started the first feed-in tariff. It was pretty awesome to have him on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You know Hans Josef Fell also,
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah, because I did a lot of work in Europe.
Uh-huh.
I did 2 big exhibits, one in Valencia and one in Verona for the International Solar Energy people. I was working with NREL.
Oh, with the International Solar Energy Society?
Yeah.
Ike's very involved with that, and Dave Renee.
Yeah, Dave Renee. And also, I don't know if you ever remember Larry Kazmersky.
Not sure.
He was the director of photovoltaics at NREL.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
He really liked my work, so I did one major exhibit in, like I say, Valencia, and then
that would be in Spain, I guess.
Yep.
Not Valencia, California.
No.
Great. Well, I would love to have an excuse to go to Valencia. We should have done the podcast from Spain next time.
Oh yeah, it's so nice town.
Well, that's pretty neat. And so some of the different things that I've seen that you've done are writing books. So you've wrote some pretty neat books that we can talk about. And also you are a professor at UC Santa Cruz.
No, actually, I'm a visiting scholar at University of California, Santa Barbara.
Oh, at Santa Barbara. Sorry, I got that wrong. Oh, I get it mixed up. So you're not a banana slug like Santa Cruz. So visiting scholar at UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And so you've been in the solar industry for quite a while, but one of the things that I saw that was kind of most interesting about your LinkedIn profile is something to do with Monty Python. Maybe you can let us know what that's all about.
Oh yeah, well, actually, that was due to my other book, A Forest Journey, the role of trees in the fate of civilization. And I used to take the bus from UCSB to my house in Santa Barbara. And there was this professor on the bus, and we started talking, and he showed an interest in my forest book. And 2 years later, he wins the Nobel Prize.
Oh, it was probably because he talked to you. You probably gave him some pointers.
And then I actually converted him from a global warming skeptic to a global warming freak, you might say.
All right.
And then I brought to the university, have you heard of Richard Keeling?
I don't know.
The Keeling curve. He was the first person to show the yearly increase in carbon dioxide.
Oh, okay. That chart from Mauna Loa?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You got it. And then afterwards, they took his work, which showed the annual increase in carbon dioxide, and matched that with the temperatures and showed that they were correlated. And this is the centerpiece of climate change science. And so I brought him to UCSB for Dr. Cohn. And then from my book, From Space to Earth, the story of solar electricity, Walter, because he's a Nobel laureate, they're like, they're the emperors of the university. They can get and do anything. And he decided he wanted to do a film, and we were able to get John Cleese to do the narration.
Wow, the famous Monty Python guy.
But the consequence of it was really wonderful. Like, the university then asked me to oversee the photovoltaic program at the university. So I did all the specs for the first big projects at the university, like in megawatts. And now like 20% of the campus is powered by photovoltaics.
Wow, that's pretty neat.
So I'm able to convert my historical work, because I was mentored by all the founders of the photovoltaic industry, to translate that into practical building.
Great. So how long have you been in the renewable energy space?
Well, I've been in the solar energy space since 1980 with the pioneering book called A Golden Thread, 2,500 Years of Solar Architecture and Technology.
Wow. 1980. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I made a major discovery that in the early 1900s, there was a major solar water heater industry in Southern California, where almost every house had a solar water heater.
Wow. Are any of those still working?
Actually, in Florida, yes. I got to visit a 100-year-old solar rooftop. It was really funny, like the Cubans, fortunately I speak Spanish, and the Cubans couldn't believe it, that in the United States, not only did they have the freedom to speak, but they had the freedom of not paying a penny for heating water.
That's pretty neat.
So I have photographs of those. I have actually a whole collection of the. So what happened was I met an architect in Santa Barbara who knew about the solar water heater industry in Santa Barbara in the early 1900s. But he said, if you think this is something new, back in the Roman times, they used solar energy to heat their baths. And so that took me on to looking at the Romans, and then looking at the Greeks, how they used solar energy almost entirely for all their cities to heat the houses.
So how did they do that back in those 2,000 years ago, or whenever it was?
What they did was they used what's called passive, where they designed houses so they kept out the sun during summertime and took in the sun during wintertime. And then the Romans invented window glass, which trapped solar heat.
I didn't realize that they invented window glass. So we could say that they invented solar glass too.
Right. No, well, actually, they had a special word. The Romans, for their solar heated structures, they call them heliocamini, which means solar furnaces.
Heliocamini. Okay.
And so I said, God, this is amazing. How many people get a chance to, write a book about information that no one knows about? And so the first book, A Golden Thread, 2,500 Years of Solar Architecture and Technology, provided the first major historical account of the use of solar energy over 2,500 years. And then subsequently, I did a book on the history of photovoltaics, where I discovered that the first photovoltaic collector was tested and worked in 1875.
1875. Maybe tell us more about that one. We always hear about the Bell Labs one that was in 1854.
No, 1954.
1954. Thanks for catching me there. Just add 100 years to it. And then there was also Becquerel.
Well, that's the misunderstanding. Becquerel never developed a solid state photovoltaic cell. What he did was he used fluids. It was Adams and Day in England in 1875 that, who actually developed the solid state solar collector.
So in 1875?
Right. But the problem is because the 19th century was, the century of thermodynamics, where people thought that anything that didn't like give off heat, exhaust heat as a consequence of producing power was a perpetual motion machine. The whole world, basically, even though it was tested and proven, they didn't think it was real until Einstein came up with the idea of light quanta, that light is not heat, it's energy.
So when you said like they didn't believe in it because of the age of thermodynamics, which means that energy isn't created out of nothing, that we have to account for it and there's always going to be some loss every time you convert it, were they thinking that since it was perpetual motion that it wasn't real, it didn't work?
Well, they thought it was perpetual motion because they didn't have the ideas that Einstein won the Nobel Prize for 50 years later. See, they thought that the sun was a ball of fire and that it somehow transmitted heat all the way down to Earth, right? While Einstein showed that the sun is a fusion machine, and what's sending down is energy rather than heat. And that energy causes molecules to move when it hits an object on Earth, and that's what creates the heat.
Okay, so yeah, electromagnetic radiation, photons.
Right, because the quandary was, if the sun was heat, how could it travel through space, which is extremely cold, and come down to us as heat, right?
Yeah.
And Einstein brilliantly showed that it was energy that was coming down called photons. And that allowed for the correct design of the Bell solar photovoltaics, because with Einstein, they knew they had to put the PN junction, the heart of the solar cell, close to the surface so it got the shorter waves, light waves, which, according to Einstein's ideas, are the most powerful.
Okay, great.
So the people back in 1875 was working without the idea that light is energy and not heat.
Okay. Oh, I get you.
But what was amazing was, and I have this in my new book, Let It Shine, the 6,000-year story of solar energy.
And we'll put all these links in the show notes to all your books.
I was fortunate to discover when I was giving several lectures at Oxford to go to London and discover the first solar cell of 1875.
Oh, and they have one of those there in Oxford?
And this is how I've done it my whole life, is I explore. And I was at this institute, and I went into their back rooms, and there I found the 1875 solar selenium photovoltaic piece.
Wow, so you found like in some storeroom or museum the original?
It wasn't a museum, it was an institute, but they, because the first selenium solar cell was discovered in London, it was somewhere in London, and it turned out it was in a back room in this institute. They didn't know before.
And you turned it up?
I did.
And so what, did they protect it now because you found it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, if you want, I have it in my book, a picture of, but I could send you a colored picture of the first solar cell.
I'd love that.
And what was amazing was most of the people of the day rejected it because even though they proved it through experiments, that it was not thermal energy, but it was thermal heat. It was the energy of a candle that created the photons that energized the selenium solar cell.
Wow. Okay.
But then you had a hiatus of like about 30 years, actually exactly 30 years before Einstein came up with the idea.
1905, yeah.
Yeah.
75 plus 30.
Yes. And actually they thought Einstein was crazy too, because it totally changed the whole idea of physics, that light is a particle. And it can be a particle or a wave, depending upon its use on Earth. And this is called the quantum quandary, that, an object could be two or three things depending on its use. Or you might say how we experiment with it.
Great.
And this won Einstein the Nobel Prize.
Of course, yeah. He got the Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect, not for relativity or quantum mechanics. Yeah.
And this is what enabled the Bell people, because I Actually, everything I do is hands-on. So I went to Bell Labs, read the lab notes of the three inventors.
Wow.
And there I discovered was they said, we have to get the PN junction as close as possible to the surface to capture the more powerful photons.
Wow. Yeah. And those three guys that you read their notes, do you know more about them? I guess maybe it's in your book.
More about the
Bell
guys?
Who they were?
God, yeah. I got to know very personally because their families were in this big fight of who really was the inventor.
Uh-huh.
And it turned out where I discovered in the lab notes that they were this incredible team that each one added their professional capabilities to make this happen. One was a guy named Fuller. He was a chemist, and he was the one who designed the first transistors, which brought, the work in silicon to the lab. And then there was Chapin, who was experimenting at the time with solar devices. And then there was Pearson, who was a theoretical physicist who enabled them to realize about, for example, the nature of light.
So Fuller, Chapin, and Pearson.
Right.
That sounds like a good team to me.
All Republicans.
Okay. Yeah, we should, if they were still around, I'd vote for them,
Yeah. Like, I got to know their families, too. And they provided me with a lot of private, notes.
And then these guys, I'm sure they're not around anymore, but how long did they live?
Oh, they lived into their 80s.
So were they around in 2000 or?
Let's see, at least around 1980s, because I spoke with Daryl Chapin when I was writing my first book.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty neat. That's a great connection with history.
Right. So, it's really interesting to realize that in 1960, there was only 1 watt of photovoltaics.
And when you say 1 lot?
Watt.
Oh, 1 watt. Oh, existing in the whole world, 1 watt.
Right.
So then we got to terawatts now. So we've beaten it by 1 trillion. In fact, I think China itself has a terawatt.
Right. So for me, I have a very interesting perspective of how the industry evolved. I was very lucky because when I wrote my book, From Space to Earth, I was able to be schooled by the pioneers, the real pioneers in the solar photovoltaic industry.
So From Space to Earth is a solar book then?
Yeah, it was actually in 2011, it was chosen as the best book on solar power.
Great. Awesome.
And then I merged with all sorts of new information. The last book on the solar history called Let It Shine, the 6,000-year story of solar energy. I did that, and it was published in 2022.
Okay. Well, when I met you, it seems like it was before that when I met you at InterSolar.
No, it had to be I believe it was in 2016.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. Okay.
I had a big booth they gave me, the Germans. They were really enthused by the book. So they provided me with a booth and also with a book signing.
Great. Yeah, that was fun when they had InterSolar in San Francisco because I didn't have to, I could sleep in my own bed.
Oh, do you live up north?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, when it came to town, the hotel rooms are kind of expensive in San Francisco, which is probably why it's not up here anymore. And I would have people staying at my house, staying on my boat,
Oh, so you're in Sausalito?
Well, I have a boat in Pier 39.
Oh, Pier 39.
Yeah.
I actually know that because I worked as a longshoreman in San Francisco.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So I remember the piers.
Yeah, Pier 39, and that's where there's, it's full of tourists, Fisherman's Wharf. And then people would come out to my house in the East Bay and stay there too.
We're in the East Bay.
I'm in Orinda right now. Yeah.
Oh, Orinda, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went to UC Berkeley.
Oh, great. Yeah, just right over the hill there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I went there for a little while too. So, in fact, I'm getting ready to go to the UC Berkeley alumni camp for a week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I've been going every year since I was 2 years old. My family's been going since the 1940s when it first started. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So Yeah, big time Cal family. Both sets of my grandparents met at Cal. Even my parents met at Cal. So
Wow. Well, I was the notorious co-op called Barrington Hall.
oh, I remember that. Is that the one that it would get really crazy there or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Gosh, I sort of remember that. I might have been to some parties there.
Yeah.
It's not around anymore, is it?
No, and then I also was called the Ridge House
Uh-huh.
on North Campus.
Okay, and where was Barrington Hall?
It was in South Campus on the Dwight Way.
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah, I still go down there all the time. I go to, on Telegraph, there's a salad place called Mezzo. So anybody who goes to Berkeley better check that out. We'll meet up in Mezzo.
Oh, wow. And Arinda, the first woman or girl that I dated when I was at Berkeley was from Arinda.
Oh, great. Yeah. Oh, that makes us related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyways, so what my solar history books did is they gave me this idea of writing a world history of forests.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about that book.
Because what happened was, as people ran out of wood in ancient China, in ancient Greece, and in ancient Rome, they turned to solar energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, wow, this sounds very much like the present, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That solar energy was, discovered because of a problem with fuel.
Uh-huh. Yep. Which is actually still made out of solar energy wood. I was behind a lumber truck today, and I was thinking, that like right now in the United States, if you try to build a house out of concrete, they don't know what to do, the contractors. They're just like, you should do wood. They just talk you out of it.
Oh, actually, I have a friend who, or a colleague, I should say, who's trying to change contractors' views on this. Mm-hmm. But it's very ingrained, it seems, to build with wood.
Yeah, and it's like concrete's strong. It's the tallest building in the world. And yeah, I like how you said ingrained, like the grain of wood.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're like, well, wood could be fireproof if it's thick enough and it's earthquake resistant and all these things. But if you go to most places in the world outside the United States where they cut down all the trees thousands of years ago.
Oh, now you're starting to get into the story of my book, A Forest Journey, of the role of trees in the fate of civilization.
Uh-huh. Okay. Tell us more about it.
Okay, well, first of all, like I said, as I was working on solar history, I discovered that solar history was based on the deforestation of Greece, Rome, and China, and the only choice they had was either to freeze to death, because I've lived in Europe. It gets really cold in Italy. Mm-hmm. It gets really cold in Greece because of the latitude. Say Rome is on the same latitude as New York.
Yeah, and Hannibal, he kind of got a little bit cold on those Alps with those elephants.
Exactly. And so as I was working on solar house heating due to lack of wood, I said, wow, this sounds like a present dilemma we're in currently. And I said, this might be interesting. So what I did was I learned in multiple languages the words for wood, for oak, for pine, and then went to lexicons. You know what lexicons are, right?
Lexicon, just like with words?
Yeah, what they have is like words, and then they tell you where you can find them in the literature.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
In, say, cuneiform, ancient Mesopotamia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't read cuneiform in many generations.
Yeah, right. And in Latin and Greek. And I went to the lexicons, and then I found the literature, and then I started discovering that both the use of forests permeated all of life. For example, you just said ingrained, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that comes from our forest legacy.
Sure. Okay.
Or the root of all evil, right? And so I began...
Or a branch circuit.
Right. So now you start getting the story. So I was curious and then went to these lexicons and found out that wood was central to both language and life, because without wood, there would be no fires. Mm-hmm. Without fires, first of all, there would be no settlement in humanity's migrations to the north. It would have remained in Africa.
Yeah. I mean, they do burn some dung in some places, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's not going to cut it for large population movements.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I've been discovering, I still am doing research, but the book is out. For example, in the Stone Age is really the Wood Age, because first of all, people relied on fire. Second of all, the spears, for example, you couldn't hunt without a wood like shaft. The only part that's stone was the point. And then I discovered that, for example, not only was wood necessary for heat, but it was also necessary for example, in 19th century America, all the piping was done with wood.
Piping?
The pipes, like for sewage.
Okay. Oh, they would probably make like a box with 4 sides that was really long, something like that, I guess.
But even more important.
Yeah, we have a septic tank that's made out of wood, redwood. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then also, we would have never had any Metal Ages, because until the discovery of coal, and it took 2 centuries for people to enable the coal to be clean burning, to smelt metals, right? For the thousands of years, people required charcoal to, create both copper, iron, and bronze, because only 5% of the world's metals are native metal, pure. The rest of 95% are in rock. And the only way you can extract that is by large amounts of heat. And that heat...
I guess they call that smelting?
Yeah. And that required heat about 600 to 800 degrees centigrade. And the only way you could get that was through charcoal. And so what we call the Metal Ages were really the Wood Age.
Yeah.
So you start to see that wood was the primary resource for both. For example, you take ships, if not for wood, we would not be talking right now, because there would have been no discovery of North America.
Yeah, that would be a long swim.
Yeah, and you would have never had any development of civilizations, because civilizations depend on trade.
Yep.
So you start to see how dependent civilizations were on the trees, not to mention the services that trees provide. Like, for example, they propagate rain, for example. They create cool climates. They manage like the water flow from the mountains, on and on. So I don't know if I'm being articulate enough, but this is the thesis of the book. And I show how wood permeated all life in civilizations.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's so many things that trees do. They hold the carbon, they hold the earth together.
In fact, the movement of civilizations from the Near East to North America was based on wood resources, because once Mesopotamia ran out of wood, the civilizations collapsed. And then you have the movement from Greece, and this is a really anomaly. This is a real mind blower. You don't think of Greece as being or Crete or Italy being forested, yet at one time they were as wild as the redwoods in Northern California.
Yeah.
And also our words, like in Latin, for example, materia means wood and also means material.
Yeah.
Or the word ule in Greek also means both matter and wood.
Yeah, and they used to think, what was there, 4 elements? What is it? Earth, wood, air, and fire?
Yeah, there you go. So what I did was I spent 10 years reading all the literature from all these civilizations, and then discovered, wow, I really have a book. And I can send you, if you want, the website.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. So basically, when people, like in Rome, ran out of fuel wood, they began using solar. In fact, they had the great baths of Rome were heated with solar energy.
Wow.
Vitruvius, so this is the whole connection between wood and solar in my work, is Vitruvius. Have you heard of Vitruvius, the great Roman architect?
I'm not sure.
Well, he
But
was.
I'd like to hire him. I have a job for a great Roman architect.
Okay, okay,
Uh-huh.
okay. He said you have to design your baths, and the Romans really loved their baths. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And the baths required, huge trunks to keep them at like 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Uh-huh.
So Vitruvius wrote that you have to face the baths. So in wintertime, they face the southwest to capture the heat of the sun.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So that's how my solar books and my forest books interacted.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I can send you like my website, which shows you the book won the Independent Publishers Award for the best book on environment for 2023.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it also won the best design book published in 2023.
Wow, congratulations.
And also they had entire fleet. They were sort of like the equivalent of oil tankers today. The Romans had 500 boats called navicellari lignari, which means wood boats that would travel throughout the Mediterranean, searching for big timber to heat the baths. They were like the equivalent of oil tankers today.
Uh-huh.
And this is a mind blower. Is you know where the Romans got most of their wood?
They got it from Radon beaver dams.
No, they got it from North Africa.
From North Africa. I was going to say Egypt, so.
Not Egypt, but like Morocco and
Oh.
Algeria.
So I wonder how did they just float it across or put it on a boat or, huh?
Yeah, well, they had this shipping, a whole shipping service called navicellari lignari. They were called wood boats, like oil tankers.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, in the book, I have a picture of longshoremen, a Roman longshoreman, hauling a big log onto the boat.
All right. So, like, what time in the Roman Empire was that? Was it like early Roman Empire, late Roman Empire? Were they still worried about Hannibal at that time?
Okay, here's the line. Is at first, the Greeks dominated the Mediterranean
Yeah.
because they had the wood, but they started to look at the Italian peninsula as we look at the Pacific Northwest, for timber.
Uh-huh.
And then as Rome expanded, they started looking at the north of Italy. Then as they deforested the north of Italy, they looked to France and Spain. And then as time went on, like I said, they looked for wood in North Africa.
Great.
In fact, the American Revolution was won by the Americans having the masting timber, which the English depended upon for their fleets. And the first thing the Americans did when they revolted was to blockade English access to have you heard of the White Pines of New Hampshire?
Not sure.
Well, so what happens is we had these huge white pines that were perfectly fitted for these. Are you familiar with the ships of the line? What happened was, when you had a battle on sea, the ships would sort of line up and fire these huge cannons.
Okay.
And you needed, huge mass to balance the ship as the ricochet. And so you needed these huge timbers. And so the only place they could go was like North America, and specifically in Massachusetts and Maine. And so when we had the revolution, the first thing the colonists did was blockade the English to the masting timber. And it was the lack of masting timber that caused the surrender at Yorktown.
Wow. So really changing the way things worked. And then I guess, wood is energy too.
Wood is energy. And before the English learned how to coke coal, they were unable to use the coal for smelting iron. And iron, a plethora of iron, was our entry into the Industrial Revolution. Because remember, what did we call the railroads? That we called them iron horses.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
But without a plethora of iron, the Industrial Revolution would be impossible. And we needed a fuel to create this plethora of iron. And before the 1740s, we did not know how to create coal that was as pure as charcoal that would allow for, the iron to be smelted from the rock.
Well, that was probably a lot better for the air. I thought it too, like just sitting around a campfire. What is it like? Humans have been using burning wood, like managing fire for something like 1,000,000 years?
Yeah. That's an interesting thing that I've been studying recently is the fire was developed about 1,000,000 years ago. And that's part of the thesis of my book is it ain't about that vast migration from Africa into the colder climates.
Yep. We interrupt you for a very important announcement. Shaun White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast has been brought to you by Shaun White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. That's right, Shaun White is sponsoring his own podcast, and he wants to remind you to go check out some of his classes. You can go to SolarSEAN, that's Solar, SEAN.com, and then click on the links to check out his classes. You can check out his heat spring classes, and you can also hire him to teach classes for you, like at your company, something like that. Now back to the show. I kind of wonder too, like when they first invented fire, if it caused a lot of, like lung cancer and stuff like that. And then we've kind of evolved to be able to handle smoke. I mean, it kind of amazes me how there's some people that couldn't smoke until they're 80 years old and still be alive.
But we don't manage smoke that well because just think of all the smokestacks we have in the world that create very dangerous pollution for our bodies.
Yeah, sure. But it just seems to me that maybe it would have been a whole lot worse if we didn't kind of evolve with smoky rooms, for the last 1,000,000 years. People heating their huts with fire and cooking with fire inside. I mean, they didn't really live that long, I guess, like 30 years old would probably be old age for a primitive person.
Yeah, but basically the whole migration, not only did wood enable it, actually the only way people could, say, emigrate, like from Asia to Alaska, was when trees started to grow after the last glaciation.
Okay.
So here's how my whole life has evolved in writing, is first discovering, well, what happened was, I wrote a little book. It's called Solar Energy Fact Sheet. That brought me to a conference in LA, and some people said in LA, oh, you think solar energy is new? Why our grandparents had solar on their houses in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, and electric cars, perhaps.
Yeah. So anyway, so that got me into the whole solar field. And then the solar field got me into the exploration of wood use and how it was, I guess you would call it almost existential for the development of civilization. Because without wood fuel, there would have been no metals. Without no metals, there would have been no tools, no weapons. We would still be basically in small groups in possibly Europe, but we could have never gone to be sitting here talking if not for those wooden ships that brought people over to our country.
Yeah. So it seems now that time has gone on that humans have kind of figured out alternatives to wood. So we're using steel, we're using concrete, big ships are no longer made out of wood. My sailboat's made out of fiberglass. So maybe now we can let these trees grow.
Well, actually, what was fascinating was, you're familiar with the Monitor and the Merrimack?
Not sure.
In American Civil War, the South had a ship called the Merrimack where they put steel plates on the wood. They started destroying the blockade that was keeping the Confederacy from getting supplies from Europe or creating trade from Europe, cotton for guns. And so it started destroying the wooden ships that were making the blockade. And there was immigrant John Erickson who had developed a metal ship, and people had laughed at him, but suddenly the Union gave him the okay because it was such an existential threat, the Merrimack. And so at Harper's Ferry, they went to battle for 10 hours, these two metal ships. And that is when the whole idea of wooden ships collapsed.
Okay. Yeah, I was not aware of that. That's very interesting. Yeah.
So suddenly people had to think of a whole new way of building ships.
So that was the Monitor and the Merrimack. Who won the battle?
It was a draw.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay.
what happened was because the North was industrial, they were able to turn out thousands of these monitors,
Mm-hmm.
and the South, didn't have that capacity. And so suddenly you had hundreds and hundreds of these monitors, these metal ships that were, everything in the ship was underwater except for the top.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd go through the rivers of the South with artillery and destroy the South.
Wow. Okay.
And the inventor, John Erickson, as you will see in my solar book, was developed the first solar engines.
Uh-huh. Okay. Great.
So he also worked heavily into solar, but he also revolutionized the shipbuilding.
Great. Okay. When you say solar engine, what's a solar engine?
It's a concave reflector.
Oh, sort of like concentrated solar thermal?
Precisely.
Okay. And then they use it to make heat and spin something.
Right.
Steam? Okay.
Create energy to move, pistons.
Mm-hmm.
And
Great.
John Erickson developed one of the first solar engines.
Great. Okay.
So that's how my two books converge.
Okay. So maybe what you can do is list off your books.
I will.
Do you want to just mention their names?
Yes. The first book was A Golden Thread, 2,500 Years of Solar Architecture and Technology.
Great.
The second book was From Space to Earth, the story of solar electricity. The next book was Let It Shine, the 6,000-year story of solar energy. And that combines like photovoltaics and solar thermal.
Great. Mm-hmm.
And then the book in 2023, published by Patagonia, is called A Forest Journey, the Role of Trees in the Fate of Civilization.
Oh, that's great. And Patagonia is the publisher. That's pretty neat too.
Well, actually, what happened was, now this shows you how my life is just totally run by coincidence. In 2018, I did a symposium on the woman who in 1856 discovered that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas.
Mm-hmm.
So the local newspaper, you have those weekly newspapers,
Mm-hmm.
ran a story about me giving this symposium.
Uh-huh.
And Patagonia is like only 30 miles south of Santa Barbara.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Read it, and suddenly they sent an email to the editor of the weekly that they've been trying to get John Perlin for like a decade because of his forest work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the book.
Have you met the founder of Patagonia? Is it Yvonne? I think.
Definitely, because we had a big celebration, and also I worked down in Patagonia as I put together the book.
Great. Yeah.
Patagonia's in Ventura, and I'm in Santa Barbara, which is only 35 miles difference.
Yeah. What is it says now on their website? Like Earth is the only shareholder, and he's given all of his profits to go back and fight climate change and things like that. So that's pretty awesome.
Oh, and they did such a beautiful job on the book. The book is a piece of art because Patagonia always does the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's
I don't know
great.
if you know their clothes, but everything's always,
Yeah.
They have this knack for doing amazing creations.
Yeah, after I saw that he was donating all of his profits, I was pretty inspired. I think I heard him on a podcast or something, and I decided to just only buy Patagonia clothes or solar t-shirts.
All right. Well, now you can buy a Patagonia book.
Yeah, and I'll buy a Patagonia book. And then the other good thing, too, is like they guarantee their stuff for life.
Yeah.
And so I've had like old stuff and go in and they no questions asked. They're really good about it. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So it's been quite a fabulous experience. I go down there every like a month or two to work with their art team.
Great.
To design the book.
All right. Well, good. Okay. Well, I've had a great time talking to you. Is there any other things that you want to cover right now, or we could do this again?
Yeah, let's do it again. Like, I'd love to be at Pier 39.
Well, next time you're up, we can go out there. Maybe we can do a podcast off of the boat.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because actually, as a kid, I used to go up to Petaluma.
Yeah, I went to high school in Santa Rosa for a while, and we would go down to Petaluma for the cruise.
Oh, okay. This is really funny because when I was 8 years old, I won a baby duck at the Sonoma County Fair in Santa Rosa.
Uh-huh.
And see, my parents had a farm my parents' friends had a farm. They were one of the original Back to the Land people. Mm-hmm. Do you know Old Redwood Highway?
Sure. Is that the one? It's like next to 101?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It used to be 101, but now it's Old Redwood Highway. Do you know Penn Grove?
I've heard of it. I can't think of it.
It's the first cross after you leave Petaluma, the first cross to the new 101. Mm-hmm. But it's 3 miles north of Petaluma, their farm.
Yeah, I'm sure I've been through it many times.
And when I was 8 years old, I helped put in the first windmill.
Oh, great. Huh, neat. I probably saw it.
Yeah. Yes, the Santa Rosa has a sweet spot in my heart because as an 8-year-old, I remember like winning this little like furry thing.
Okay, great. Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've been to that fair. I can remember going to the Sonoma County Fairgrounds for the fair and watching music and having a good time. So great. Well, yeah, thanks so much.
I hope I was articulate enough for you.
Oh, you were great. So thank you, John Perlin. You can get all of John's books. I'm demanding that you get them. And we talked about wood, and John Perlin's last name is Perlin, and you can make purlins out of wood. They're part of your roof, but you spell it a little bit differently. John Perlin is Perlin and not Purlin. Maybe you should change your name, and then it would be more wood relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for being on the podcast. One more thing.
I'd like to say that Patagonia, what they did was not only is it's the only forest book that nary a tree has given its life to, but also to eliminate the bulk, all the footnotes, there's like 1,000 footnotes, is online, and the book gives you access.
Oh, great. Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. I would love to get Yvonne from Patagonia on the podcast someday if you can hook me up or maybe somebody else from there. So that would be great. And let's do this again. And thanks for listening to Sean White's Solar and Energy Storage Podcast. To find out more, go to SolarSEAN. That's SolarSEAN.com. You can take some classes. You can get some consulting. You can get educated. And you could become a better part of the solar and energy storage industry. Thanks for listening. Woo!